more important than these subsidiary motions. Now, privileged motions are usually ones that can interrupt a meeting because of something which doesn't necessarily have to do anything with the motion that is being discussed. Something which has to be handled immediately, not always urgently, but which has to be handled immediately, and therefore has the precedence to interrupt the meeting, to interrupt the discussion as it is going. Now, they also have an order of precedence, and there are 5 of them. And I will explain today whether each motion needs to be seconded or not, whether there is the possibility to vote on it or not, and whether a majority vote, a simple majority will do, or if there has to be a quorum and a 2/3 vote. Because that's basically what you need to know in order to be able to move on in the discussion. Because each of the subsidiary and privilege motions can interrupt the motion on the table. The motion not on the table, the motion in the room, of course. Yes. The first privilege motion is called for the orders of the day. As Mel did, he saw that I wasn't really introducing enough, so he said, okay, we haven't handled introduction enough, let's call for the orders of the day, let's handle the introduction first. If you're in a session and you know there's an agenda, usually when you have a big meeting, we're talking about sessions with sometimes 500 or 700 people in the room that need to discuss a certain agenda. If the president skips a point, or if there was a point which was postponed to that certain time, and that time has come, every member doesn't have to wait for the president to give you the right to speak, can stand up and raise the motion to call for the orders of the day. And then the president just gives the orders of the day. You don't need a second, because everybody has the right to do it. You can't debate it. Everybody has the right to get it. And we don't need to vote on it, because calling for the orders of the day is just a right that everybody has. And if you have a meeting with an agenda, you're supposed to stick to it. Otherwise, there's no purpose in having an agenda. Now, the second motion is to raise a question of privilege. Now, come summer, we might be in a situation where we have a meeting and the window is open, and maybe the speaker in front doesn't have a very loud voice, and maybe in the backyard they're having a party, and the people in the back can't hear the speaker. They may raise question of privilege to ask for the windows to be closed or for the speaker to be handed a microphone. The presiding chairman gives them the right. There needs to be no second. You don't need to debate on it, and there needs to be no vote on it. So every person in the room has the right to raise a question of privilege if you think that your rights are not being handled fairly by situations that can occur during a meeting. It could be loud noise from the back. It could also be that maybe the aircon is broken down and it's really too stuffy in here. We want to open a window. Any such thing, such side effects that may interrupt the meeting and make it impossible for the members or some of the people in the session to follow as they should, they can raise a question of privilege to just handle that situation and make sure that everybody can follow again as they should. Now, third one is call for a recess. Imagine there's a very, very long agenda, and 2 or 3 hours in the session, people really need a bit of air, nature calls, we want to stretch our legs for a bit, 5 minutes. Everybody always has the right to interrupt and call for a recess. Now, this, let me just check so I don't say any mistakes. The motion to recess obviously takes precedence over these two because they come in an order of preference. Motion to recess takes precedence, and it must be seconded. So you can't just call for a recess as a whim. It must be seconded. It must be that there's other people that also need a recess. You can't debate it. A debate usually takes place when there's many gray zones to push the question. You can't debate recess or no recess. There's not much room for a debate. It's yes or no. It does require a majority vote. If, let's say we have a long agenda, 5 points, but we're in the middle of debating item number 4 and somebody calls for a recess. Now then, it might be that the majority votes to, let's stick in here, do number 5 as well, so that we can get out of here instead of having a recess, which will drag out the meeting even longer. So there's possibilities, there's a reason why there could be a vote, but a simple majority will do, and then there's a recess. The only amendment possible to recess is to maybe add a certain time. Let's say only recess for 10 minutes, recess until 9 o'clock, to make sure that there is a certain framework around the length of the recess. The next session, the next motion, the next privilege motion is to call for the meeting to adjourn. Imagine we've been meeting for a whole day and we still are only, let's say, in 2/3 of the meeting agenda, and we still have a number of important things to do, but people are starting to leave. Then it might be wise that somebody raises the motion to adjourn to make sure that we still have enough people in the room, or that people are still awake enough to be in their right mind to make a decision, that they don't make a decision just to get over with it, but that they really are fresh and awake to make the right decisions which are right for the club or for the meeting at hand. Now, this motion to adjourn does need a second, so somebody has to agree that yes, we want to adjourn. It isn't debatable, because once again it's a yes or a no. You adjourn or you don't. There's no debate possible, except if you want to decide on adjourning until a certain time, then you can debate until what time do we adjourn. When does this meeting reopen? Because when you adjourn a meeting, then you could welcome. I could now lay on table. We'll do an exercise. I'll lay on table to briefly introduce Eva Steinmassel. She's our division governor, and she's been in the 2 former sessions, so she knows a little bit about parliamentary procedure already, and she knows that when important people come in, we may decide to lay the topic on table, which I do. Please take a seat. I don't know if there's any chairs there. And so I now take it from the table again. It's like a record where you stop. Christopher explained, it's like a record. You pick up the needle and then you put it back where you left off. Problem is, I'm not a record, I don't know where I left off. Yes, we were adjourning. So you can decide to adjourn when you see that the meeting needs to be stopped at this point in time, but that you haven't covered all the topics which are part of the meeting. So the last privilege motion is when you fix the time to adjourn. This obviously has precedence to adjourning the meeting, because you can't adjourn a meeting if you need to fix a time to which to adjourn. So we might decide today that when we run over time, we adjourn the meeting to next week, Tuesday, the 10th of April at 7:15, same time, same place, here at Movimento. That's fix the time to adjourn. This, again, needs a second. It requires a second. And you can debate all the time. People say, well, no, next Tuesday is not possible, Easter vacation, you may try and think of another date, but usually you fix the date to adjourn also when you haven't finished with the business at hand, and you can't postpone it until the next regular meeting. So you need to discuss and find out to which time to adjourn. When that is debated, then a majority vote will do. Okay? So to briefly wrap it up, the privilege motions, in order of appearance, I'll take and hand out maybe around a little chart that you can use in order to know, because we'll do a little exercise after this. Yeah. This one you don't need. A little chart which explains the main motion, and then subsidiary motions, and the privilege motion, so the wrap-up of 3 lessons, it also continues with what is going to be presented in the next 2 meetings. But the original main motion is point number 13, and everything up from that are in order of appearance. The subsidiary, 7 subsidiary motions, and then the 5 privilege motions. So if you look, you'll always see what type the motion is in the 2nd column. The 3rd column shows whether the speaker has the right to interrupt without asking for the president to give him the right to speak. In the privilege motions, you have the right to interrupt the meeting, the privilege motions. Then you'll also be able to see whether that motion needs a second, whether it requires a second, whether it is amendable or not, if you can, amend the motion, the subsidiary motion or the privilege motion, and then whether it is debatable or not. In some cases, as we have seen, especially for the privilege motions, there is no point in debating a motion. And at last but not least, whether we need to vote about it. There's 2 cases when you call for the orders of the day or raise a question of privilege. There is no vote required. It's the president or the chairman's decision. Now, we'll continue with the exercise. So, Tobias, could you time another 5 minutes? I will remain the president of the session. Does anybody want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, I propose a motion that we should buy a piano for our club, so that we can have music and sing-along sessions with our speaking engineers.
Second.
Okay, I rephrase the motion. So Mel moves that the club buy a piano so that during our next meetings we can have a piano player, let's say, support the speakers on stage?
Possibly.
Yes. Now, does anybody want to have ask some questions or debate about this? Does anybody want to amend the motion? Does anybody have...
I want to debate it. My debate is, our club charter does not allow for, music in the club because we are a public speaking club. So I think it does not fit into our club goals.
Am I allowed to respond to that?
Yeah.
Public speaking without music. You're living in the Stone Age. Anything that can enhance the experience for the audience is always welcome.
You might, if... Should I then continue? Which would take us to everywhere. I think we have material from Toastmasters which is very useful. I think that is what the club should buy. And I think when we go into music, the next time somebody might come out and say we want a mass of beer.
And so, you want to stick with the rules, or do you want to go with a bit of creativity?
I would like to go to the previous question. You seem to be hearing random examples here.
Yes.
Oh.
I agree. Can we come to a vote? All of you in favor of buying a piano?
I would like to make an amendment for that. If we buy a piano which is not more than 100 euros.
All right. So, okay, so the motion in the room is now, the club should buy a piano of not more than 100 euros to entertain the audience whilst speakers are on stage.
I want to amend it and say 100 euros with no maintenance cost for the next 3 years.
Seconded.
Okay, so the motion now in the room is we buy a piano, the club should buy a piano, no more than 100 euros, with no maintenance cost in the next 3 years to support members while speaking on stage.
I would like to amend that motion as well. And that, as well as that, we should have additional singing lessons for the speakers so that they can sing along when the piano is playing.
I think that is an excellent
separate
motion. I
motion.
would like to first close the business in the room. So the motion, the standing motion right now at this moment in time is that club buy a piano, no more than 100 euros costs. and with no maintenance costs for the next 3 years to support the meetings. Do we want to debate on that, or
yeah.
do we want to continue to
I think
vote?
this is an extremely important issue. I think we should take a recess. And then think about that over tea.
I think we take a recess till next week.
Do we want to take a recess until next week with this topic? Because it's a recess with a specific time, so I call for a vote. All of you in favor to recess until next week?
I think.
All of you against? Those of you who have called for a recess until next week, please leave the room. I won't be here. The room will probably not be open. But that was your decision. Because if you recess, then you mean, and until next week, it also means, basic English, no?
That's American English, doesn't count.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Ineke, I want to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
As our time is up, I will second. I would like, if we have no business on the table, and we don't because we're in recess, I now call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.